when we can gain clarity about what it is that we are experiencing on what dimension, and ideally through self-mastery, bring all these different dimensions, these different versions of ourselves that we can experience into harmony, that's then when we know what we're doing. That's then when every action that we put out, every expression that we put out in this world has a purpose, has a meaning. So spiritual action is the conscious engaging and interacting with the world and other people and nature and everything that surrounds us according to our higher expression. Welcome everybody to our energy talk here on Wednesday right after the solstice. My name is Jona Bryndis. I'm an energy healer, energy coach and visionary. And on Wednesdays we take a little bit of time to talk about these energies that we feel impacting us on various levels. And I am here to guide you through this and invite you to walk through these current collective energies. I called this energy talk spiritual action, leaning onto the energy update for this week. And I would like to discuss this with you, what spiritual action is. But let's first look into why this could even be interesting to us. What is it, what we are seeking when we are contemplating spiritual acting? Now, spiritual action is nothing but conscious action, but not just rationally or, in a 3D sense, but in a sense that involves also your spiritual and energetic being, that most of you audience here, consisting of energetically sensitives, highly sensitive persons and empaths perhaps, are very familiar with. And on our journey, one of the issues that we are experiencing, one of the schisms that we're experiencing, is that we have something like an inner guidance that we feel very strongly, impulses maybe that come from our true self, from our higher self, from our soul self. And then we have reality, 3D reality. And you hear this a lot. There's a lot of people talking on the internet about 5D. And I want to shed some light into this. You can look up other videos on my YouTube channel here, especially the workshop series, Dimensions of Self. So if you will, underlying all this schism that we feel is the perception that where we experience ourselves on different levels. We experience ourselves in the physical reality with the physical self. Then we experience ourselves emotionally as an emotional self. We experience ourselves as a mental self, like through all the thoughts and thinkingness that we have. Then we can experience ourselves as a spiritual self that is maybe connected to faith, to beliefs and so forth. And then we also can experience ourselves as an energetic being. Like energetics are a little different from just, like, say, the belief system that we have around higher self, around maybe the divine and so forth. So you see, I've just counted 5 different dimensions: physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic. And when people are talking about the journey from 3D to 5D, what they're actually referring to is to no longer just seeing yourself as a physical, emotional, mental being, but also a spiritual and energetic being. So 5D being the energetic perspective that includes all the others. So 3D is the first 3. 4D would be the spiritual part, and 5D is the more energetic or etheric part. So that helps you to categorize the lingo that is floating around. And when we do these energy talks, we have to keep this in mind, all right? Which dimension of self we are experiencing what. And when we can gain clarity about what it is that we are experiencing on what dimension, and ideally through self-mastery, bring all these different dimensions, these different versions of ourselves that we can experience into harmony, that's then when we know what we're doing. That's then when every action that we put out, every expression that we put out in this world has a purpose, has a meaning. So if we look at the general state that most people are in right now, they're feeling a little lost. They're feeling like purposeless, meaningless. Everything is meaningless. And this is because most of them are just caught in their 3D self. The 3D self is in our energy lingo here, what we usually call the ego self. Yeah, it binds us to the physical, the material experience, including our emotions and our thoughts about it, but they are not contextualized, they're not internalized through our own spiritual self or perhaps even our energetic self. There are very systematic steps to do this, so this journey is not as mystical as it sounds, but for us to gain this clarity, we do need to be willing to include these unseen aspects of our perception, and that's basically why we do these energy talks here. So spiritual action is a conscious engaging and interacting with the world and other people and nature and everything that surrounds us according to our higher expression. And higher expression only because when we experience ourselves in repeating patterns, for example, that are unconscious to us, so unconscious would lean more toward our lower expressions, then we don't feel like we're in control, then we don't feel like things have meaning. We think that things are random or luck, all right, or bad karma, a word that I have clarified many times here with all these workshops and talks over the years. There's no such thing as bad karma, there only is karma, and karma is nothing but sort of the force that brings everything back into balance. So if we only see ourselves as this 3D being, we have a higher tendency to work with our lower expressions. For us to move into our higher expressions and therefore the clarity and meaning and purpose, we need to develop our consciousness. We need to explore these realms, that other people call 4D, 5D. I don't really like this classification, but I wanted you guys to just have a way to label this here in our conversation so that we know what we're talking about. So without the spiritual aspect of our journey, it is very difficult to actually find inner peace, find something like the higher expression. We can have good intentions, many of us do, but we keep running into the schism, the confliction between our ego self and what we consider to be our higher self. And I would like to hear from you right now how you define spiritual action and give a few examples. What do you guys see as a spiritual action? This doesn't necessarily have to be anything that you're really doing yourself. It could also be something that you see others doing. But what in your world, in your way of perceiving yourself and the world, counts as a spiritual action, as a conscious action? Who would like to share?
Hello.
Hi there.
I think this one's easy for me in a sense because spiritual action to me is connecting to the part of me that's not separate. So just in everyday life, just connecting with people in shops or on the road, but just in a way that is natural, I guess, but has kindness to it.
So
that's what I like.
If I feel into this, what I'm hearing you say is you see any opportunity to connect with people as a spiritual action.
Mm-hmm.
No,
even if I get it wrong.
Yeah.
But I've learned boundaries through that now, so it's changed again. and I'm more empowered.
This need to connect, okay, definitely comes from a place that you defined and that we've discussed here for a minute ago. This more unseen part of it's a deeper need. Yeah. So obviously we all have needs to succeed in 3D. Yeah, to have a job, to have money, to be able to survive, pay our livelihoods, and have some form of self-esteem along with this. Yeah, but the need to connect with people is something that comes from a deeper place within us. Yeah. So from a 3D point of view, connecting with other people would only make sense if it is transactional, if there is a networking aspect to it, or if there's some kind of like say benefit, yeah, for the ego. But if the need to connect with others comes from a place within ourselves that is more about understanding what connection can do for us, yeah, and the other person, then it would be more of a spiritual action. I agree with you, Sean. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tina is texting here, praying. Yes, wonderful. Praying is one of these the most stereotypical things that we are connecting with spiritual action. What are we doing when we are praying? Can someone define this? It's also part of a connection, but what or whom are we connecting with when we're praying?
Connecting with the oneness.
With oneness, okay. That's a little far out there. That's a word that's not easy to be understood.
Nothing but everything. No?
Yeah, I mean, it's not, there's no right or wrong here, because at the end of the day, yeah, we have to internalize this for ourselves and define it for ourselves. Yeah, how we call this and what this feels like within ourselves. But I guess, yes, Becky, thanks for helping out here. The most neutral way to express it is connecting with higher power. So we're connecting with something either within ourselves or something based on whatever our belief system is, a power that is higher than us. And this is a shift here. This is, the shift away from 3D, because in 3D, other than, let's say, maybe our parents or taxes and government authorities or bosses, there's no real higher power, right, in 3D. So higher power is a spiritual concept. And yet, and this is exactly where an action or a thought or any kind of intention that we have begins to change from, just being transactional, material, sort of getting us something, the getting, having, owning that I mentioned that is characteristic to the 3D realm, into doing something for ourselves, yeah, or perhaps, when we see it as devotion, when we see praying as devotion, giving something back to the universe, giving something back to this, let's say, power, perhaps source, that brought everything into existence. Yeah, this is a new perspective. And when you take this a step farther, for example, like Buddhism does, or some other ancient teachings, where it's not personified anymore, where it's not like a god or a father or something like that, but where it is the universe itself. Here, Sean, is where oneness comes in, that you deem as higher power. Then there is a new insight. This would be sort of the 5D within, this dimensional journey, where you realize that what you are connecting with is actually also in you. So there's a connecting to higher power through you as you. Yeah, and this is where this omnious I am comes from. So I am awareness is that conscious experience of source or the divine higher power working in and through you as you. Yeah? And in the moment that we declare ourselves as an I am with capital letters, what we are announcing to the universe is basically, I'm here. I am aware of my spiritual self. I am aware that I am fundamentally an energetic being, a soul self that is having a physical experience. Yeah, but I'm attending in this conscious journey of evolution, toward my higher expression. And the goals and the intentions, and with it also what people call ascension, like the feedback, of what it is that is different when you are acting and living according to this. They change from owning to wanting peace, wanting connection, wanting harmony, wanting purpose. And this is ultimately, guys, why we're all on this journey, because we feel this impulse in us. We want these higher expressions. We want these higher things in our life, isn't it? And the part that we haven't figured out yet, for the most part, for example, Sean, when you say sometimes it doesn't work that well, when you're following this impulse and it doesn't work that well, that I refer to as that still needs refinement, that's something that we've never learned. So here we are now in this time of massive transformation, internal and external, and we're feeling these impulses coming from our higher self or soul self or spirit self or higher power, depending on how you see this, but don't quite know how to do this, what these stepping stones are, what these systematic ways are. So once we can understand that spiritual action is not a particular habit, like being a vegan or wearing red socks or having a tattoo or these kind of things. Those are all external things still, and therefore tied to 3D. You can do those things if you decide that these are things that help you to connect or that help you to have more conscious choices and more conscious actions in your life, or if they bring you more clarity. But if you look at what it actually is that you're striving for, namely happiness, fulfillment, peace, and love in your life, which are the hallmarks, the pillars of this spiritual and energetic connection with your higher self, then you will have to see or find out that they can't really get you there. So there's different rules, there's different laws, if you will, when it comes to us wanting to explore and internalize these higher expressions of ourselves. So this systematic way that I just mentioned that we've never learned, we call this self-mastery in self-growth and development. And there are some 3 fundamentals that we need to look at that already came to expression here. And that is that we all have this impulse within ourselves to bring ourselves into expression, to self-actualize, but we don't really have the right framework for that. So the first need that kind of emerges in us when we are becoming conscious is the need for a spiritual autonomy, which means the need to understand ourselves more consciously, to know what our needs are, what our wants are, and what it is that is in our true nature. To explore that and to understand that, whatever spiritual context we want to give our life or our actions has to come from within ourselves. It cannot be hearsay or it cannot be secondhand. Nobody on the outside can tell us what this inner connection with our true self, with our higher self, soul self, or the divine feels like. It needs to be internalized. This is a big part here of what we do at transCODES. This this inner experience of your higher self. That needs to be practiced and it needs to be explored. The second fundamental of self-mastery is to get to know your ego, to get to know your 3D self. Yeah. What has been driving you all your life? What are your pet peeves? What are your behavior patterns? What are your traumas, your shadow? All these things, you have to familiarize yourself with that, because you now begin to understand that they form barriers, that they form limitations, that they can influence or even dominate the way you think and feel about something, and often also the way you interact with the world. Yeah, how many times do we find ourselves in places where we connect with other people, where we talk or whatever, and we say something or do something that doesn't really express who we are, yeah, or where we go back and question ourselves and beat ourselves up for, having done or having said something, yeah. So there is a shift that happens when you're on this conscious journey that requires you to more consciously choose what you say, what you think, what you do, yeah, and even how you treat your body, how you treat nature, how you treat animals, how you interact with other people. And you got to understand what this ego part in you that is aligned to survival, what that will do. Yeah, this is accumulated through all your life's experiences, basically the instruction manual. This is what our ego is for. It's our fail-safe. So if we don't develop consciousness, our ego will help us to survive in this life. But in the moment that you feel the need to develop consciousness and really explore that, you're going to have to realize that your ego self, as good as it works for some of you guys, yeah, as functional as it might be, has a limitation. It cannot get you into understanding these spiritual things and these energetic things. So you're going to have to work with the blocks, the barriers there. And that's the second part of your journey. The third part is understanding your own darkness. That's not the same as ego self. Ego self is not dark. Ego self can pull you into your lower expressions and therefore create a lot of problems in your life, yeah, including things like guilt and shame and fear and anxiety and not really being able to step into your power, yeah, being a pushover or being somebody who's too forceful, who constantly gets rejected. Those are things that originate, yeah, in this unresolved aspect of yourself where, a part of you may want this, but another part, doesn't want to do the work, or doesn't want to, or can't muster, or simply isn't ready yet. And there is a darkness in that it pulls us into our lower energetic states. It drains a lot of our life force energy. Yeah, and therefore it asks us to understand this a little better, what these individual actions, thoughts, and choices that we're making unconsciously, what they're doing to us, if they are conducive to us or for us, or if they're non-conducive, if they pull us into our lower states. And with that awareness often also comes a greater understanding of other people and the world at large, yeah, and why certain things are the way they are in our society and why certain people act in these ways. Yeah, so there comes a greater understanding of the world that you're interacting with. These are the three guiding principles, the three fundamentals of self-mastery, because without them, it's pretty much impossible for you to navigate through this world. When it comes to actually understanding, yeah, what it is that you want and how you can get there. Yeah, let's say you know what your spiritual, your higher goals are, but you don't quite know yet how to translate that into action. Then we're talking about the principles of conscious living, the principles of spiritual thinking, acting, and choosing. And here we will encounter certain, like say, things that help us to do this. In religion, for example, all the things that are being told to the believers in form of like maybe commandments, or in form of certain prayers that one has to do, in order to sort of awaken that, or bring back the memory, or just simply stay awake. So staying awake then becomes pretty much the biggest challenge. Can you follow me here? So let's go back to your guys' experience and look at how is it going for you with spiritual action? Who of you has already sort of defined for themselves, what your higher goals are, and at least on a feeling or impulse level, feels like there's a knowing of what you want to bring into expression? Who of you feels this? Give me a little bit of feedback. Yeah, hearts is great. You don't have to know all the details, but you already feel something coming in from within yourself that, let's say, helps you to discern whether what you are engaging in right now, or what you're saying, or what you're choosing, leads you toward your higher expression or not. Okay, so there still are some question marks, I suppose. Where is it that you experience the biggest barriers? Where is the block for you? I suppose that if you're not clear yet about what your higher goals are, and at least sort of on this inner knowing level, what the higher expression of you could look like, then there is a void here as to what you should or could engage in, to make this feeling stronger in you, to have more faith in yourself, to trust in yourself. All right, so I'm getting some feedback here. So guys, so tell me, what is it that you experience as the biggest sort of stumbling stone or hunk or barrier in your daily life?
The past.
The past, okay. And how does the past, in your observation, produce barriers for you to move into your higher expression?
My stuck emotions in the rescue victim role that I was born into, and just not freeing myself from it, thinking of that suffering as my own, and like holding on to it like it's a treasure, and it's not. Tethering
so the pain
people that are long gone.
It's the pain of the past, really, right? The trauma sometimes that can block us. When there's just too much, and when perhaps we took this on as our reality, we identified with it. What else, guys? What else can hold you back? What else do you experience as sort of conscious soul selves on this journey as the biggest stumbling blocks, the biggest hold or backers, things that hold you back? Where do you experience the strongest schisms in your own life? So we got the pain of the past. Becky is sharing the fear of making mistakes. So it's like where the dog chases its own tail, right? You're afraid of making a mistake, and therefore you shy away from choices because you are afraid that these choices may lead you further away from what you truly want. Okay, what can you pinpoint here is the actual problem? Is the fear of making mistakes the problem, or is there something else underneath that is the problem? I'm giving you a hint here. What can you not trust in?
Myself.
Trust in self, right? It's you're not trusting that these decisions or choices or these actions Yeah, that they are leading you to your higher expression. And why? Why are you not trusting them? Is there maybe something like expectations? Is there maybe something beliefs? Yeah, in form of thought patterns or whatever. And everything I do fails, or or I'm not worth it, or something along those lines, where you have a set of beliefs in you that kind of pulls you down, that kind of diminishes or degrades your inner impulses.
Yes.
So we got the pain of the past, we got fear, and we got lack of trust in self. Okay, Janet is sharing groups of people, individuals that I put my trust into. Okay, Janet, that's not enough. You put your trust into, and what? I mean, there's nothing wrong with putting your trust into people, but what is the experience here that you're referring to? It's not the people or the individuals that are blocking you. It's the fact that you put trust in them and that trust was betrayed. So the actual problem here is not the other people. The problem here is your ability to discern whether you can trust in certain people or not. Do you see how I just recontextualized this? It's not the people. It's you choosing to trust someone who is perhaps not aligned, who does not heed the same level of integrity or goal as you. And that then creates an imbalance. Yeah, so every time we trust, or I want to go as far as externalize our power, make ourselves dependent on, or give our power away, yeah, we are running into danger. Yes, and if this has happened to us multiple times in our life, then that can become a pretty big block, because now we are confused. We don't know whom to trust in anymore. So back here at the trust in self, Janet and you, I'm reading the trust in others, yeah, and the externalization of your power. So giving your powers away. Yeah, so we got the pain of the past, we got general fear, we got the lack of trust in self, the lack of ability to discern, and externalizing our power to others or outside. This is not just individuals or people. This can also be, governments or belief systems altogether. Syria is sharing. Yeah, pure laziness. I agree with you. That's totally okay. Yeah, postponing, procrastination, not wanting to go through the effort, not wanting to step out of our comfort zone. That is a valid block. You'd be surprised how many people actually have great goals, but simply aren't willing to put the effort in. And most of the time, it's because they don't understand the dimensions. All right. So, comfort zone is a 3D thing. Okay, that's a physical thing, an emotional thing for the most part. Yeah. When it comes to safety and security, it's often also a mental thing. But most of us aren't really willing to do what it takes, for example, to challenge our ego enough, to do the things that we are avoiding. That's ego. Ego formed all these coping mechanisms. To look beyond it. Yes, and Linda, you sharing, not familiar with this, so there's simply lack of experience with your own spirit self or with your higher goals. You just simply don't know what it is that you're seeking. Yeah, a lack of experience in this realm of yourself altogether. That can be a block as well. So that can make you feel very insecure. Yeah, so a lot of people know how to navigate 3D. Yeah, they got it all sorted out, the 401k and retirement fund and health insurance and all this and degrees and all that. But when it comes to happiness, when it comes to love, when it comes to these higher goals, don't actually know how to go about this. Yeah, this is valid, very valid. Yes, and Sean, you're nailing it here. Staying open, yeah. Sometimes we can just get annoyed, yeah, by all the things that we experience that aren't really getting us where we want to arrive or where we want to be when things don't go our way, right? And this is then something that pulls us back into our lower expression. So you guys have a good understanding here. This is exactly what this week is all about. And obviously the remainder here of this last year, because due to the solstice energies that are basically giving the theme for the next 6 months, we're getting a sneak peek here into what it is that we need to step into. And not to make it too astrological, I'm not an expert in astrology. And by the way, you feel more than welcome to comment on this. If you have some astrological knowledge that can also add to this, I'm reading the energies, but I am aware of some of these astronomical constellations, including things like solar flares and so forth. I observe, not just the human nature, the individuals, the societies, the humanity, but also the cosmic constellations. But what happens here during a solstice is that we are basically witnessing something, where we're shifting out of what is often experienced a block into a new energy. And this is sometimes very powerful because it can show us a different perspective. And so here, yesterday, when we did the Connect with Your Higher Self at the peak of the solstice, there were some interesting things that were shown to us. Yeah? Namely, what it actually means to step into action, what it means to step into conscious action, what it feels like from within when we are not consciously acting. As simple as that, guys. All these things that you're striving for, they require you to stay fully awake and conscious. And there was some beautiful sharing. You can resort to the video here for the recording of the energy talk right after the session. How we can perceive things, or how we do perceive things when we are not connected with our higher self, and how we perceive things when we are connected. And this is extremely interesting because it can help you to understand why you feel so conflicted a lot of times. Yeah, many of you already have a little bit of experience with connecting with this spirit being the soul aspect of you and like it and want to be there, always want to be there. But when you then come back into your 3D self, your everyday life, you experience a reality check, because these things that you have just experienced when you connected with your higher self do not match up with what you were experiencing in 3D. And there is, as one of the participants called it a huge fluctuation between those states. And spiritual acting, spiritual living, guys, is basically the process of harmonizing these different realities within ourselves, these different dimensions, physical, emotional, mental, spiritual, and energetic with another. And that is then what allows us to feel free of all these inner conflicts, of all these doubts, of all these fears, of all the laziness. Because once you understand the magnitude of that. Namely, in regards, for example, how you can manifest your life, how you can co-create, co-write your life if you are conscious and awake and make every action a conscious action. Now, sometimes it's a big aha moment for people when they realize what the consequences of unconscious, autopilot, sort of zombie living are. The consequences of not following your inner impulse, your impulse from your higher self to connect more, to express yourself more authentically, to interact with the world in a more conscious way, are that you won't be able to harmonize these different aspects of yourself and basically create, in that friction of all these different parts of you, more karma. And more karma then means more things to balance, more things to, well, I hate the word, but it fits here, work on. So fundamentally, the call of this impulse from your higher self, to grow into your higher expression, is a natural part of our human consciousness evolution, guys. It is something that we will all experience at some point in some of our lifetimes, namely when we can trust in the existence of our soul or higher self. So it is that moment that you wake up to this awareness that there's something like a soul in you, that there's something like higher power, that you get this call. And then it's like having to go back to school. So there's a part there that has to do with learning, educating yourself, systematic energy awareness and self-mastery. That's something that I am specialized on. Now breaking all this down into steps and guiding you through exercises. And more consciously engaging with that higher self or true self at first, higher self later. Where you actually form a deeper relationship, where you begin to receive guidance that is unmistakable. A deep inner knowing. Even though you might not be able to explain it to your neighbors why you want to do things on this rational level, but you know it. You know what you need to do. You may not know exactly how to, but it is the faith in yourself, in your higher self. And that's why the theme for June is faith. That will carry you through that will support you, that will give you the right guidance as soon as you acknowledge, as soon as you interact with this higher existence. And on a spiritual level, we can start with prayer, we can start with, if you will, connecting with spirit guides or, any kind of intermediary, that comes to your attention that works for you. But then there's also a level, guys, where when you truly step into this I am awareness, where you realize that it really is the higher self in you that is a representative of higher power. There still are hierarchies in this spiritual energetic realm, the etheric, the astral, the divine. But in order to get, exactly, Sean, through these oscillations, of your self-experience here in 3D, as a soul self that is having a physical experience, straddling two or more worlds, as you are having this multidimensional experience, You need to learn how to navigate yourself. And that's then fundamentally self-mastery, always starting with simply being awake, being conscious, and then learning ways to more clearly think, to more clearly sense, feel, to more clearly make choices, so that you no longer need to worry about, fear of mistakes or the pain of the past and stuff like that, because you are following this inner prompting that carries you through these experiences with purpose and meaning. Wonderful, guys. Thank you so much for participating in this energy talk today. As you know, this is just sort of a side thing here that I do for free on Wednesdays. I see you again on Friday. This will be the last energy update here in my Florida home. Starting Friday night, I will be on my way to Iceland, and for the following 2 weeks, you will see those energy talks and energy updates from Iceland. If you would like to use the opportunity to have this more internalized experience of yourself and the path ahead of you, I strongly recommend that you check out the energetic tune-up for July. This is coming up tomorrow night, 10 p.m. Florida time. This is an energetic clearing session and reading session where I tune your energy to July energies, and then in a live talk right after, do live readings for all the participants, what it is that they can experience here as challenges and opportunities in the next 4 to 6 weeks. I only do this once a month, so don't miss this opportunity. And if you are one of those who are feeling a very strong impulse right now to step into conscious spiritual action, you might want to join us in Iceland. We still have spots available. It starts next Monday. Most of your countries allow travel, even for unvaccinated people now. Feel welcome to inquire about last-minute spots. I'm wishing you a wonderful week here. These next days will probably be much lighter for you than you have experienced the last months, but discern carefully. Do not get pulled into your laziness, as Syria called it earlier. Stay conscious and awake, guys. We have a 2-week window here where we can make very, very important karmic adjustments for our life that will determine the next 20 years, not just the next 6 months, but everything that we are putting into this interaction with the universe right now will have a strong impact for you. I love you guys. See you on Friday. Bye-bye.